is truth and what it's worth, okay? I mean, but I wanted to kind of give you a little quick background, okay? I was raised in the church, heard all the stories, you know, but my father always taught us, his thing was to value the truth, you know?
Okay.
And he always said, this is what he said. He said that if you don't value the truth, then you'll end up believing in worthless truth. People, you know, if truth has no value, then it's worthless.
Okay.
Now, a worthless truth is one that does nothing but satisfy a desire, because desires are about feeling good, and that makes it subjective. Okay? So if truth does nothing but satisfy your desires, then it's worthless. It really is worthless.
Not necessarily.
Okay? It's subjective.
It is subjective, but subjective
Okay.
things are not worthless.
I just want to make sure that we are on the same page with our idea of truth. Because do you mean something that comports with reality, or are you a little bit closer to, are you using kind of something like the word fact?
Truth is what we know. Okay, well, let me put it this way, okay? What is true is what is actual. If a pencil is on a desk, it's true if it's actually there.
Okay,
Right.
so would you say that...
We know about the pencil's existence.
Okay, so truth is something that comports with reality. Would you agree with that?
Well, okay, comports with reality. Can you elaborate on what you mean by comport? I'm not sure what you mean by that. That exists?
It's consistent with objective reality.
Yes.
We can investigate it, we can look at it, we can test it, we can verify it, and then pass it off to someone else who can also verify it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page, because otherwise we'll just talk past each other. So.
Yeah. There are so many different philosophies that deal with truth that I'm just trying to, you know, zero in on your discussion.
Well,
that way we can kind of apply it. Otherwise, Drew's right. We're going to talk right back.
Okay. Well, here's what I mean. You know, the question would be, does truth have value? Okay. Value. In order for something to have value, you have to have one of three things. You have to be able to do something with it. You have to be able to get something for it, or it has to be able to do something for you.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, if I have a car, it's worth something because I can get money for it. I can do things with it, and it can take me places. You know, that a lot quicker than I can get by walking. You see, it does things for me.
So
it has value.
So if you did not know about this show, would it not be true that it exists?
Would it not be true if I didn't know?
Right. Or
sure. I don't see why not.
So did this show exist before you found it?
Well, I would think so.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure that you're not, you know, taking a solipsistic claim, because some people will say, you know, things don't exist until
No.
Okay.
No.
So if you don't value something, if you don't value that and this is true, if you don't value that I live in an apartment building across from a cow pasture, if you don't value that, does that mean that it's actually false?
No, it means that that doesn't, no.
Sure. Okay. So
no, it doesn't mean that at all.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
What it means is that it doesn't matter whether I believe it or not.
Well,
you see,
does
it matter whether I believe that you live across from a cow pasture? You know what I mean?
Sure. So for me, and I know I'm going to get a whole bunch of email for this, but when I think about truth and the concept of truth, I think of capital T truth and lowercase t truth, right? Capital T truth would be something that just is true. And my best explanation of that would be 2 + 2 = 4. Mathematics in general, you know, the Pythagorean theorem. Those things are true, right? We give them a definition, and that definition satisfies the truth value of it, right? And then you have the lowercase t true, things that are not necessarily verifiable. There are a lot of things that, you know, you're talking about subjective claims, right? I can say, I really, really love coffee. Is there a truth value to it? Well, yeah, either I like coffee or I don't. But it would be very hard for you to verify that without sticking me in an MRI and giving me coffee and then testing that against other times that I've had coffee.
Well, okay, well,
right?
That's what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. That's objective. But if you were to say that coffee tastes better than anything.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It may be true for you.
Right.
Because you like coffee. But it may not be true for me.
Okay.
So does coffee taste better than anything else? Well, that seems to be a worthless truth to me. I mean, I may say yes, you may say no. I may, it doesn't matter. It's an irrelevancy. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. You see, it doesn't do anything else.
I guess I have a question.
Other than to make you happy or make me happy. You see what I mean?
So if I can ask you a question, when does it begin to matter when someone else's truth, when does someone else's truth begin to matter to you?
When does it matter to me?
Yeah, because if I understand what you said, it's that, there are certain other people have their truths or their ideas, something that is based on their opinion or their preference. What does it really matter to you? Do I understand correctly that that's what you'd be saying here?
No, it's not whether it matters to me or not. It's the truth, that's why I say either a pencil is on the desk or it's not. You see?
Okay.
Truth is objective. If there's 200 marbles in a jar, there's 200 marbles in a jar, not 199.
I like how the green
You see what I mean? You understand?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not about whether I like it or whether I want it to be that way or how I feel. It doesn't have, my feelings have nothing to do with it. It's whether it makes a difference or not.
So while I agree with you that some things
that's why I say, and here's what I don't understand, and really is, I've heard this example before. Okay, let's say that there's a pencil sitting on a desk. Okay, and it's there. I know it's there. We know the truth about the existence of that pencil, don't we? We can say we know the truth about that existence.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we wipe out all the mind, every mind that could possibly know about the pencil, does the pencil still exist?
Now that is an awesome question, because that has less to do with what you value and whether or not truth exists without minds, and that is fantastic. So now I really have. Now, okay. You just blew me up. All right. Okay. So do you think that knowledge comes a priori, right? That we are basically a tabula rasa, a blank slate, taking in information? Or do you think truth comes a posteriori, that we assign truth to things from the outside? I guess is my first question for you.
No. Well, I think things are true. Things are true. It doesn't, whether
Well, let's get to your question, right? If there are no minds to see and experience the pencil, do you think that the pencil being there is true?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
So if all of
But you do, obviously.
Well,
I don't know that we're necessarily taking a position. I think we're just trying to clarify what we all think about it. That's kind of the point of it.
I mean, for me personally, I think that a lot of what we describe in the world has to do with thinking minds. The definitions that we give things have everything to do with what we're using those things for, right? So if we're talking about language, if we're talking about mathematics, to a degree, so long as we define mathematics in the way that we do, it makes sense. But without a mind, does it really? But then there are the existence of physical things. If an asteroid is floating in space and nobody sees it, was the asteroid ever there? Well, yeah, it was. But without us to assign knowledge to it, it's still there. We just don't know. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does. You're right. It doesn't depend. I'm not saying that the pencil exists on me knowing about it necessarily. Okay. I mean, I don't, just because I know about a pencil doesn't mean that I make a pencil exist physically. Well, I take that back. That's really not how I wanted to put that. I look at it, and what I want to do is, I'm looking at it from try to look at it from that side of it. That, because I've heard Matt make this point that, a rock is a rock, whether anything knows about it or not. That existence, the things that existence does not require knowledge. That knowledge doesn't have any effect on existence at all. Knowing about things doesn't make them exist. Am I understanding him right?
Well, you know what? I think we can get to that. Can you get the audience mic? So, in the meantime, though, it really is an amazing question. Did you have anything that you wanted to add before? I
just wanted to ask, so are you saying that basically if a tree falls in the woods, you're not necessarily trying to have the conversation about does anyone hear it? It's if a tree falls down in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it even matter if it fell or not? Is that kind of what you're trying to get at here? Like, who cares?
No. No, I'm saying that's no. It's about the things that exist.
Okay.
It is about the things that exist. You see.
So.
Like I said, I'm a theist. So, I'm not. I didn't really want to. I'm not wanting to get into my biblical views, but obviously, I believe that God created and God sustains the things that exist. God knows how. Basically, my position. Here's my position. Okay, is that the things that exist require knowledge in order for them to exist.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
and the best analogy I can come up with is that we make pencils because we know how to make pencils. Pencils exist because we know how to make them. You see, the knowledge. If a pencil exists outside of knowledge, then the laws of physics, then the pencil exists because the laws of physics allow for it to exist, and not because we know how to make them. We're just a tool, like a mountain is a tool for turning sand into sandstone, right?
No. Wow. Okay, we went way off into the weeds here. I'd be happy to talk about how mountains are tools, because that interests me. That is, I've never heard that before. But first, I'd like to, jump in. I actually had a suggestion, a suggested question. Do you believe that discovery is possible? That we can not know of a thing, discover it, and then know it to be true?
Sure.
Okay. So.
Sure. Why not?
So.
That's what I say. Existence doesn't depend on me knowing about it.
What does existence depend on?
Something knowing.
Okay, I think I understand the larger point then. So is the larger point is in your view of reality, what it's almost like a divine logos type understanding of reality. If I think I'm getting this right, it's basically that in order for something to exist, something has to have knowledge of it. Therefore, there is something beyond us that has knowledge of it because it exists. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, it may very well be that knowledge is knowledge and existence may very well be, and I don't know if this is right or not. I don't know if I'm not sure I believe this, but time and space are codependent.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe that would kind of the way I see it is that, existence and knowledge are codependent. that where there's existence, there is knowledge of that existence.
So you're going to have to show a link with that. And I guess my question to you is,
well, that's why I say I can't. So I, you know,
well, I mean, you are promoting an unfalsifiable proposition. So you're saying that the universe we live in has to exist with a God in it, because without that God, it wouldn't exist. And so my question to you is, what would a universe look like that doesn't have a God in it? What would be the difference between that universe and this one? Because we would need to know that difference to be able to tell.
I'm not sure.
Right?
I don't know. You know, I kind of tend to believe that, you know, and there again, this is just another something that I kind of question. I mean, I'm not saying I believe it or that it's true, but, you know, we talk about the absolutes. You know, truth is an absolute. Knowledge is an absolute. I mean, we have absolutes for everything.
No, we don't.
You know, I mean,
no, actually,
we don't. Well,
no, we don't.
For everything. Okay, not for everything.
I can't think of any absolutes that exist. Period.
No. I'm not saying they exist. I'm saying they don't.
You just said they were absolutes. I'm trying to
reality.
pin that down. Help me here.
Well, do you? Okay. Well, okay. That's what I said. What is true is an actuality. What is, you know, that if a pencil is sitting on your desk, it's only true if it's actually there.
Okay.
Okay. And at the same time, it would be impossible for it not to be there. Do you agree with that?
In that we need to discover a thing. So here's actually,
No.
I would disagree, and I'll tell you why. Because the correct, intellectually honest thing to do is say, I don't know. Right? So if you say there's a pencil on the table of a room that I have not investigated, my response needs to be, I don't know. And I'm not saying that we know about it. I'm just saying that if a pencil is on a desk, it doesn't matter whether you know about it. We're not talking about whether we know about it at this point. I'm saying that if something is true, in order for something to be true, it has to be actual. You see? We need to be able to discuss it, verify it, give it a title, you know, determine what we're going to be calling it, fit that into our language.
I mean, potentially we could.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you want to know the truth about it. Truth is what we know about things, isn't it?
To the best of our knowledge. I just don't agree that there's any capital T truth. I think that we do our best to approximate, you know,
yes, we
larger truths, but
yes, we do.
I'm sorry.
I'm not saying that truth is an absolute. You know, that this capital T. I mean, I don't know what that exactly. That there is, that we can say that anything is true. You say, I mean, you know, what is the presuppositional position that reality is real? What is that? It's the assumption that things are true, right? And we assume the things as being actual.
We investigate things to be able to determine whether or not they comport with reality, and we need to live in that world that we're investigating and exploring. Is that what you're saying? Okay, then we're good there so far.
I agree with that. I mean, we're confined to this reality. We have to operate within this reality.
Right. So I guess I want to kind of dive back into it needing to exist because a God needs to know about it. Right? So we kind of skirted around my question, and I kind of want to get back to that question. Right.
Right, I do too.
Because it's vitally important. Because if you're going to make a claim that a God needs to exist, you need to be able to show that God exists to be able to substantiate that claim. And so in the argument of saying our universe needs to have a God, therefore, because it's kind of this Cartesian circle, right? God needs it needs God. So what does a universe without a God look like? Because if we can determine that, then we can test our reality and find out whether or not a God exists within it. So can you give me anything that you think that a universe without a God would look like, how that would be different from the universe that we're in. Because otherwise, you're just laying a claim on top of things. It's just an extra piece of scaffolding that has no substantiation. It's
Right.
you know, because what use is a God that is effectively as good as nothing, right? If you can't tell the difference between whether or not your God exists or not, then the best thing to do is cut that out until the time comes that you can verify that that God exists, right? It's the same view that we take, and I'm sure that you take, about every other God in the history of humanity, right? All of the other religions, Bigfoot, pixies, and leprechauns, right? UFOs that landed in the 1950s, right? I mean, there's so many. Well, that one actually doesn't require magic. So UFOs are far more likely to have happened than a God existing, right? Because you need to be able to give us something to test.
So just any claim, we need to be able to actually investigate into whether or not it's true and show verifiably that it is. And until we can actually do that, we have to say we don't know. Otherwise, that's not particularly intellectually honest. We're just kind of spitballing.
Well, no, okay, and I'm going to admit, I mean, that I don't know. I don't know, because like you said, there's nothing here. You know, of course, I don't believe God exists within this reality.
Can you show me that there are other realities?
Reality. Sure.
How?
At least one.
Really?
How do I know?
Yeah, how do you verify a reality outside of our own?
I don't know. I believe it.
Okay, why do you believe it?
I don't know it.
Why do you believe it?
Why do I believe it?
Yeah, why do you believe that there's a reality outside of our own that you don't know about?
I believe. Well, there again, that's why I say. I mean, the absolutes don't exist here. Okay, there's nothing absolute about this reality. Okay, but if we take a tree or a rock or anything that exists within, and we break it down, and we keep breaking it down, and we keep breaking it down, we're going to get to a point at which whatever's there exists as it is, and it's nothing other. You know, I mean, it's like we split the atom and there's stuff inside. Mm-hmm. We split that open and there's stuff inside of that. At some point in time, we got to get to a point where you break it open and there's nothing there. You see, it's either, and I don't know whether it would be two of them or just nothing. Wouldn't it just totally disappear? I don't know how that would happen.
So we'll reach a point where we'll find something that's irreducibly simple?
Yeah, and I would say that it exists in an absolute state. You see, I mean, atoms don't stop being atoms just because they're part of a tree. The things that make up the atoms don't stop being what they are just because they're part of the atom. You see what I mean? At some point, if you break it down, whatever's left, whatever's there, remains. And it exists in an absolute state. It's always that, even though it may be part of the atom or part of the tree. You see?
Okay.
I mean, you could wake up tomorrow, whatever. You know what I mean? But we don't live. We don't know what that is. I don't know if we can know what that is.
I think I understand where you're coming from on it.
It doesn't exist as that anymore. You see what I mean? I mean, ever since the beginning. Those things don't exist. They may have existed in the singularity. I don't know. You know, whatever.
I gotcha. I think I understand where you're coming from. With at a certain point, you believe that we're going to find something that is irreducibly simple, or if we had the ability to actually investigate that, you know, that far along, then maybe we would find that. How do you know that there is something fundamental that's irreducibly simple to the universe?
Well, you know, I don't know if I can explain how I know that. I don't know how I know that. I mean, I don't know how to explain that, I guess. It just, you know, it's like, I'm not sure I know how to explain that.
That's okay. That's a very honest answer.
Yeah,
I think you can come to without having to get the conclusion at all.
No, I appreciate that. You know, I commend you for, if you don't know something, you know, don't bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Like That's cool. I'm glad that you would say,
Right.
I don't know. I guess the question that I would leave you with here is just, are you okay with going through and living comfortably throughout life, basically having one of your fundamental beliefs unjustifiable by your own reasoning? Are you comfortable going through life saying, you know, I have absolutely no idea, but I do base pretty much everything I believe on this. I don't understand it, but I do.
Well, I believe what I believe because, you know, even though I may not be able to explain it, I guess I would have to say yes to that, you know, because I know what I believe, and I can't, you know, it's based on what I was taught. It is based on what I was taught.
So let's go into what you were taught, because really the way that you view the world around you is entirely dependent on the toolbox that you use to decipher that world. That's your epistemology, what you determine to be true based off of what you have learned about getting to truth, right? And getting to verify things about the world that you're in. And so I think if we get down and dig down to that epistemology, I think that from what I'm seeing, please correct me if I'm wrong, but somewhere in that toolbox, you're pulling out the tool that says, I don't know a thing, but I have a hope or an assertion, and because I think it is true. And I don't know if that's a reliable tool or something that you would want to use to decipher anything else about what you know about this world, because it just feels faulty. Am I completely off base here?
No, I mean, I don't think you're totally off base. It really is. It boils down to I feel like I don't see any other way, maybe. You know, I mean, I feel like you could say I'm forced to believe certain things based on other things that I believe. You know, that because I believe this, I have to accept this.
Like what?
You know? Well, that's what I'm saying. And it goes back to what my father always taught me about the value of truth, you know?
Okay, give me an example of a contingent truth like that.
Oh. Of a contingent truth.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You would say, and that was the question that I asked is, you know, does a pencil exist if nothing knows about it, right? If knowledge isn't required for things to exist, if nothing has to know about it, then why does the pencil exist? You see, why does it exist?
So
what makes it exist? It ain't because I know about it. It ain't because anything knows about it.
Why are you presupposing a purpose to a thing existing? You're saying why doesn't make any sense when you...
I'm not presupposing a purpose.
Okay, then maybe your language is just adding to a little confusion to it, because you're saying, why does it exist? As if it is there to serve a greater purpose. Can we replace pencil with rock?
What makes it exist? It's a matter of what makes it exist.
I guess I just don't understand what making it exist means. I mean, I can say that I exist and these are the chemicals that come together and these are the different pieces of me, right? And I can say that those things exist. To say, why does Eric exist? Built into that question is the idea that there's a purpose.
Okay, well then.
Right, versus why does this rock exist? Right. If we're looking at it with the idea of there being a creator, then built into that question is the presupposition that there's a purpose. And I'm striking at that, and I'm trying to be very clear about that, because I don't think that's a very good question. I think that that's built up on a framework that we're not following you on.
Okay, it's not I'm not trying to apply a purpose to it.
Okay.
Necessarily, you know, but I'm not saying that.
Sure.
I don't think I am anyway.
You know,
I mean, that's not my intent.
No, move on.
That's not my intent. Okay. Wow. Let's see. How do I explain this? Okay?
That's okay. You know what? Take your time.
Pencils are made of atoms, aren't they? The atoms, you know, what brings the atoms together? I mean, why? I mean, what is it that allows the pencil to exist?
So I think that we could probably have this conversation a whole lot longer.
Yeah.
And we have about 9 minutes left, and I want to get to another couple callers. But man, this has been interesting.
Okay.
I definitely want to take the time. I would love to, if you wanted to email, we have our email, if we can get that up, mail@talkheathen.com. Also, we have an amazing discussion going on where people are just jumping in and wanting to discuss these types of things. And so if you wanted to discuss that, you can also look us up on Reddit, reddit.com/r/talkheathen. You can also find us on Facebook, all of those other things. But if you got to us via email, if we can get the email up, we would love to, I'd love to help you, formulate those questions in a way that can aid us having a very insightful dialogue.
And above all, just with you calling in, I appreciate, just us having a civil dialogue here. Nothing heated. We can just talk about this deep stuff.
I do too.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that we can share.
I've watched the Atheist show, and I saw, I think it was Jamie, your co-host?
Mm-hmm.
Or you, Jamie?
No, this is
I saw him on what?
I have Drew here with me today. Genetically modified.
No, I know, but your other co-host.
Yeah, Jamie.
The one with the hat.
Yeah, Jamie.
Jamie. I saw him on the Atheist Experience one time, and that's how I found out about your show.
Okay.
So, you guys, I've watched Matt. He doesn't seem to be quite as tolerant as you guys.
He's done a crap ton of work, and he's done this for a very, very, very long time. He's actually in the studio.
He's having a little chuckle.
And I like listening to him. I mean, he's a charismatic speaker, and I like listening to him.
Well, if you like listening to him, why don't you talk to him?
He likes to explode.
Why don't you talk to him?
I keep waiting for his head to explode.
You can call this number in about an hour, and Matt has actually said that he's 2 hours, and he's willing to talk to you on the Atheist Experience today.
I will say that maybe you felt like that with Matt, but I can say right now, because I'm looking through the glass right at him, his head is as intact and shiny as ever. So you don't have to worry about it exploding.
Yep.
And hopefully, you guys will be able to have a nice discussion if you get through on the phones later. But we appreciate you calling and have a nice discussion with us.
Take care, all right, brother?
Thank you.
Later.
Thank you.
Oh, I felt like it was like Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson light right there.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's like, yeah.
Okay, so we had a whole bunch of people, some amazing people who contributed during the super chat. Wanted to say thank you to everybody. The person that's up right now is Wellington Smith, who asked if the caller is scared that there's no meaning other than the meaning that I ascribe to it. That is a really good question. I think, though, we've got to break down a couple more barriers before we can start talking about that. Yeah. But I think that it would be a logical place to go, and I know it's a rather scary place.
I think that's one of the last things that people get over when they're deconverting. I know that for me, it was, well, I don't really want this to be true. Do I go any further? Do I sit here and be uncomfortable in cognitive dissonance forever? And obviously I chose to go through with it, but kind of felt like I was throwing myself into a dark canyon and I had nothing, I had no idea what was at the bottom. And apparently it was Eric at the bottom, and I'm not sure if I might regret the decision.
Actually, if you want to look into that, the French philosophers called it anomie, and man, it is scary.
Is that different than like manga, like anomie?
A little bit. It's a dark hole, but it's a different one. I also wanted to say
Steve McRae is in the chat. I just want to say what's up, Steve.
Hey, Steve. I also wanted to thank Kendall. Kendall posted something very embarrassing, but since she donated money, I'll say that she said #Red Sweat Barrack. Okay.